Happy Friday! Oh my gosh, we made it to another Friday. Everyone's like, this was such a short week, right? Because Monday was off. So we're excited for that. I have a guest today who I've known for quite a while. We actually were on the speaker circuit pre-pandemic. I was trying to unearth a video that I have of this person that because she made the cut inside the video, but I did not find it in time. Maybe I'll find it on the fly. We'll find out. But she has just recently moved. She moved from Minnesota, if I got it right, and now to California. And now I'm trying to think of if I knew what she's doing before. But right now, her key thing is clarity and crystallization. Clarity and crystallization. Let's bring in the one and only Theresa Rose, CSP. There we go.
Here we go.
Theresa, and entering the dance contest for sure.
Always, right? I mean, I think the last time that we were in the same space together, John, we were definitely, if not on, we were very close to the dance floor.
Oh, I know, but you know what? It's funny. I think my last 4 or 6 interviews had not had dancers, so we're missing the dance energy, Theresa.
Well, I can bring it in spades. I can bring it. Let's do it.
That is so true. Let's see. So, well, we have not chatted, I think, for now 3 years. I'd love to hear your summary of the pandemic, Theresa style.
The summary of the pandemic, Theresa style, is that I went to on-the-job training for a PhD in marketing and sales. That's what I did. I went from being on the road speaking, and I served as the head of thought leadership for a global executive network where I was responsible for the premier community of global thought leaders. And during the pandemic, I had two primary roles as we all moved into our rectangles. I had the first role was to lead the thought leadership practice in this global network, where I got a chance firsthand to really work with thought leaders to uncover where were their blind spots, their weak spots, what were they struggling with. I got a chance to really hold that relationship in a very trusted and transparent way, so that I heard for the first time really what was going on and what was broken in the processes, right? What were they struggling with? That was one arm of what I did, John, was really learn thought leadership from a objective perspective, as opposed to just my own experience as a speaker. And the second thing that I learned, which was equally important, was I understood how to convey a marketing message and to close sales in these rectangles. I became a marketing and sales Jedi because I had to. And so I got more people in rectangles, and I learned firsthand by baptism by Zoom to figure out how can you convert a high ticket item, a high ticket offer in 45 minutes across this channel. And I got really, really good at it. And as a part of that process, then when I went off and went on my own again to really focus on crystallizing the brilliance of other people, I not only took the insight that I received during the pandemic about the thought leadership industry, I also took the skills and talents that I acquired as a marketer and a salesperson to be able to help them deliver their messages more effectively.
Oh, I got to find out which Facebook user this is, but somebody just chatted 10,000 brownie points for incorporating the word Jedi into your bio. And I want to give you a new term if you're ready for it.
Sure.
Baptism by bits.
Baptism by bits. Yes. Yes. Well, they're all over the place. And the more that it was a really interesting experience. And that's why I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, because I really respect the stage, this stage right here. And that's how I perceive it. And so I want to use it to the greatest of my ability to be able to persuade. I mean, that's why we're doing this, right? We want to do it to further both of our journeys in this world. And so everything I really, had studied deeply, what did it take for me, for my own offering and how I show up to really maximize this experience right here. Nothing's accidental.
Yeah, well, okay. So, well, speaking about nothing accidental, thanks for letting me dive in. So now let's, of course, for my friends who don't know you, Theresa, why don't you just take a moment and say who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a brand and business crystallizer. I clarify the brilliance of brands and businesses on a cocktail napkin by studying their content and how they show up, and chip away everything that doesn't belong in its essence. That's primarily what I do. I also am a strategic co-creator to take what we create on the cocktail napkin and take it off the napkin and actually implement it into their real world practice. And then also I'm a certified speaking professional. So I speak on the crystallization process and the power of clarity on a cocktail napkin.
On a cocktail napkin. By the way, are you going to Influence?
Brother, I'm going to be so all over that place. You're going to be sick of me. Here's the three things that I'm doing. Three things, maybe four things. Number one is I am going to be a guest at the National Speakers Association chapter leadership event because I crystallized the brilliance of the National Speakers Association. I created the member journey iconography that now is going to be rolled out that is being rolled out to the entire organization. So I get a chance to speak with and be with and support and be an advisor to the chapter leaders, which is very near and dear to my heart because I'm a former president of the Minnesota chapter of that great association. I also then am going to hoof it all the way down the hallway right after that and get a microphone in my hand, and I'm going to be doing some stand-up comedy on Friday night. And then the next day, I'm going to be receiving my certified speaking professional designation, which thank you very much. I'm incredibly proud of. And then I'm also an event partner at National Speakers Association Influence. So I will have a booth. And of course, I'll be able to connect with tons of my friends and colleagues there throughout the whole thing. And you'll see me on the dance floor, guaranteed.
For those who don't know, Influence is National Speakers Association, the other NSA, yearly summer conference, usually one of the biggest. Probably 14 to 1,500 of the top speakers in the country will be there, including Theresa and myself. And if you have time on, I think it's Saturday night after the festivities end, if you want to come join the NSA Northwest dinner, I am the host. And we're having a dinner. So we're walking over after the whatever ends and walking over to the restaurant connected to the Rose and Shingle Creek. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'll have to let you know. I'm figuring out, of course, it's like Jenga, it's human Jenga during the conference to figure out all the places that you can be at and all the opportunities for connection. But it would be wonderful. It's going to be wonderful to see you regardless.
Yep, I'll also be there too. I believe I'm bringing an instrument for the NSA Music Jam. So
Nice. Good. Well, it's an incredible experience. My life changed because of going to Influence. It not only changed because of getting involved in the association at the local level, but it truly, I talk about moments where it's Dorothy landing in Oz moments at the National Speakers Association Influence Conference when I suddenly saw the world in color. And one of those was seeing Neen James. When I understood what I had intuitively known to be true, which is the power of a model, the power of creating a contextual picture. When I really understood that as it relates to thought leadership, she woke me up to a whole new realm that I used personally, and then I started to help with other businesses and brands to do.
Wow.
So you never know what kind of wonderful little nugget of awesome you're going to get from somebody that is literally going to change the trajectory of your career.
Beautiful. Well, let's talk about changing trajectories and careers. You said something that a lot of people talk about, but you have some particular expertise in, which is, selling over virtual, I think is one of the key parts. I do a class called Presenting and Selling Virtually that it's different. Right? I mean, there's a lot of similarities, but you did have to make just enough changes that you could not take the old model and apply it here and have it work inside of this box. And so I'd love to hear some of Theresa's insights that came around early on in the pandemic of saying what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, first of all, what works is to really focus your intention on the fact that there is another human being on the other side of that little black dot that is the camera. And when you can remember, and what I like to do, this is sort of the hippy dippy, airy fairy, cosmic muffiny part of me. But what I like to do is step into my heart. Every single time I would get on a sales call, and I would have 6 or 7 a day. All right. I mean, I was back to back to back to back to backs the whole time. And so how did I do that? I would sink into my heart and I'd look at the person's name on my calendar and I'd go to LinkedIn and I'd check them out for like a minute or 2 or 3 or 5, whatever I had left. And I would just try to think about like, well, how is this person showing up in the world? And what do they want? What do they want to accomplish? What's their gift? What's their talent? What I call what's their brilliance? And when I'd get all kind of squishy in my heart, then once I would click on to let's meet, what I do is I first of all make sure that I drag, this is just a practical part that I do, and I do it for one-on-ones, I do it for small meetings, I do it for huge seminars that I do. I will drag who's ever talking to the part where I can look at them like that, and then I really talk to them. When they ask me a question, I will talk to them, and they'll feel it. Right.
So let me just check too. People don't know this, at least like in Zoom, which is, believe the platform you're using most of the time.
Yes.
It says
Yep.
that once you get a gallery, you can drag people around to you. And then the second part, then, I don't know if you know this one, Theresa. If you're the host, you can have what you drag around appear on everybody else's screen.
Ooh, wow.
Which is really
Wow.
powerful, right? Because so like when you drag your client to the center, then
Yep.
also everybody else is looking right here at the camera and at the center at the same time.
I like that.
Yeah, so it's called follow host order on the top right. And even if you're on somebody else's account, if they assign you to host, you can do it, but only the host can do it. And why this is so important. So I know Theresa really cares about seat placement like in the real world. Right?
Yeah.
Circular formats, tables, who's at the
Yes.
head of the table, who's on the side. The same is actually true, I believe, in virtual. And so the ability to move people around and have it move for everybody else also then, solved a lot of the context clarity, which people had problems, which is like, who's to my right? And it was different for everybody.
Right.
But now
Right.
you can make it the same.
I love that, John, because part of what I hold to be true in these virtual meetings is not just the connection to, who is this other person genuinely, this heart, fellow heart on the other side. It also is the opportunity to create space. So it's not just the one-on-one sales discussion that happens when you're really connected. You're really connected with that person. And what I like to say is even when you're doing a presentation, I just did this the other day with a client where I was doing some video coaching on how they can create better videos based on what's on their cocktail napkin. And I showed them that I drag people up and, move them around. But it's also this feeling of like we're creating a digital space together that's really supportive, right? And it allows you to if I'm going to speak to an entire room, right, of rectangles, if I'm going to speak to a room of rectangles, what my strategy is to drag myself up. So I drag myself up to the middle.
Yes.
If I'm delivering to the entire room. And what I imagine in myself is I imagine that when I'm talking to myself in that way, right, very intensely, very passionately, very enthusiastically, and I'm sharing my, what I want to give them as a tool or a piece of value, that I just imagine that those 2 eyeballs that I see across the way from me, those are really the universal eyeballs of all the other people. And I actually can feel in my, weird and wonderful way, I can actually, when it's all on the gallery view, even though I'm looking at myself as I'm delivering the message, I actually can feel and see through my peripheral vision the other people in the room. And so I can notice when I need to shake it up a little bit, or when I need to want to, show something or ask a question in chat, or, invite another person to start having a one-on-one with me in that room. That's a really, it seems simple, but if you can put in your mind, this is what I'm doing when I move my rectangle up to the upper part of where my camera is, right before my camera, when I'm blasting myself with all this wisdom and insight, what I'm really doing is doing it for all of the other people in the room too, right? And it helps with the connection.
So Theresa, because everyone's complaining about engagement and connection on virtual, right? That it's quote unquote harder or not possible. And I believe then, Teresa, you might describe yourself as an empath to some degree. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, here's a couple things that I think will really help too. You know, on the quantum side, is that it is possible for you to feel connected to somebody halfway around the other side of the planet, right?
Of course. Yes.
Because the connection actually technically takes no time at all. And so that's what we're humans are designed for. So that's what I really discovered in the virtual side, is that you can make those connections to all those people, right? And you can feel that's a lot of people ask, how do I read a virtual audience? And even if you're spotlighted, what I suggest is for speakers to go back to gallery so you can see everybody else, right?
Agreed.
Then go on to that part and get a read on what everyone else is doing. And then again, change it up. If you see that you're losing them, change it immediately. It's what you do in a real audience. Why wouldn't you do it
Yep.
here on virtual? But
Yep.
here's one you probably haven't found, right? So you probably know how to make a heart with your hands, right?
Of course.
Okay, great. Now watch this. Do this, and now, right, set some intention around this. And now take this heart, and let's say we have a bunch of people who are watching virtually too, and of course myself. Now what you want to do is you want to take this heart, push it at and past the camera. Okay, ready? Just like this. Ready? Push and across. There you go. Now, my question as an empath is, did you feel something?
Well, sure. Of course. I mean, I started feeling it as soon as you said, do this. Right.
What we've done with that is we discovered this like about 2 years ago, and it's that, especially if a group does it, like you have 20 or more people on your screen and they all do this at the same time, there are many people in the audience, right? Even who are not empaths that are going, hey, wait a minute, I think I just felt something.
Yeah, of course. Well, I do something that's a little bit different. So when I have my presentations and when I have sales discussions, frankly,
Yeah.
when I'm talking about, because my sales discussions are very much about vibrational alignment, fit. Do they need what I deliver as far as my crystallization services? And it's a partnership. It's not, I'm not selling them anything. I'm showing and telling them my expertise, finding out what their needs are. And if it's a match, great. If it isn't, that's okay too. But what I end my connections with, virtual connections with, whether I state it aloud, and sometimes I do, or I will just do it, is I will literally say, listen, regardless of whatever happens, if this is the last time that I'm ever seeing you right now, I want you to know that every single time your name crosses my orbit, every single time that I hear you, every single time somebody references you, and you cross my mind, I'm going to be just sending you with such good mojo that everything that you are looking for in your life is going to be realized, and that you are going to have all the things that you need to be able to shine your light as brilliantly as possible. And I mean it. And I mean it. And so even just putting my hands up like that and talking about it, just like, I just really am energizing your highest good, right? And that's a really nice way to pierce the armor of this electric world that we live in, and really remember that we're two human beings on this planet.
I think I don't know if have you watched or listened to the LinkedIn class called The Neuroscience of Virtual Selling?
No, I haven't. It sounds very interesting.
Yeah, and so one of the key pieces that comes from the research from here is that they said that they have done research, and they said presenters who never show their hands at least once during a presentation, the audience is 20% less likely to trust them or buy from them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you know what this leads to? I'm going to read that again. I'm going to read that again and use it in some of my sales materials, because part of what I talk about, and as someone who's a crystallizer, right? How do you create clarity on a cocktail napkin? One of the things that I did to be able to reach serious sales numbers, is I would actually be able to describe. I'm going to give you an example. So behind me, I would talk often and would be the business development lead for a top tier community, right? A council. And really the essence of what that council's value proposition was masterminds, getting together with your peers, right? And I'm a student of, way over by my corner there, for those who are on video, that book right there, that's my mom's, my dear mother, Kayleen, her 1960 copy of Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. Okay. It's $1.95. It's yellowed copy, and it's one of my most precious treasures. And one of the things that I studied over and over and over again throughout my career, throughout my lifetime, because I've seen that book since I was 5 years old. I remember who that was. What I describe as a crystallizer, the crystallization of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, Chapter 10, The Power of the Mastermind, comes down to this to me: economics plus energetics equals exponential growth. Right? It's those two things in tandem equally that makes masterminding so magical, is economics plus energetics equals exponential growth. And for those who are watching video, you'll see that I just broke that down. I can break down very complex subjects. Economics being your models, your strategies, your tactics, your access, your capital, your economics, right? But equally important are your energetics. It's your vision, your support, your encouragement, your mojo, somebody really truly genuinely caring about your success and going to the mat to help you, right? Economics plus energetics equals the exponential growth. I could say that sentence over and over and over again using my hands like this, and I would have people over and over saying, yes, I'm going to buy whatever it is that she's offering, because I understand on an intuitive level, as a child could understand, what she's talking about. The head and the heart equals exponential growth, right? But for me, I wanted to boil it down to the words of economics plus energetics. And the hands, like if I would have just said that like this without it, right, with my hands down, economics plus energetics equals exponential growth. You might understand it and you might think it's cute, but what you do when you see the hands is, first of all, I show up bigger and I'm actually energetically giving power to what I'm saying. So you feel what I'm saying. And when you, as a virtual presenter or salesperson, get to a point where you are so demonstrative of the value you bring that they can feel it,
Yes.
they will say yes.
You know what I love about this is that the follow-up is that somebody analyzed the top and bottom TED Talks. And then the top 5 to 10 TED Talks, they counted the number of hand gestures. And it's like 2x to 4x versus the lower rated TEDx talks. And so those hand gestures or emphatics or whatever we call them, in our speaking world, a lot of them, some of us do them naturally, but I don't know what happened in virtual. Like some people got their arms stuck, like we're, the Irish river dance dancers around that. And so I don't know why people got stuck with that. I want to
Well, if you don't, here's why, if I may, one
yes.
of the things that I noticed is the reason why they didn't use it is because they don't know what they're doing. So if you have a model that has context and information and insight in it, then you can use hand gestures. Like my hand gestures for my thought leadership is my crystallized marketing and sales model is clarify, amplify, monetize. Clarify starts in the heart. What can you draw that's different than everybody else? It makes you. It starts here in your heart. Then it amplifies out, radiating outwards to the world in all the 4 ways people take in your brilliance. They read you, listen to you, watch you, and interact with you. Once you send that trajectory of energy out from clarify, amplify, then and only then is when the monetize comes to you, right? So clarify, amplify, monetize. When you get it into your body and you know what your hands are doing, there's a reason for what your hand gestures are instead of just sort of being wildly out there. And even things like, I am a snapper, John. I'm a snapper. Like when I see something, even if I'm on mute, I can be one of 100 people in a room, in myself, just being a participant, and I'll be in there snapping my fingers and clapping my hands and going, yeah, preach it, when I feel something that is resonant with me. And that kind of participation in this virtual realm is really essential to be able to jump off the screen and into the hearts and minds of the people on the other side.
I think the other part too is that you can actually still make an impact as an attendee, right? And bringing energy to the meeting, even if you're not the speaker.
For sure, 100%. And you're going to change the entire trajectory of the room. I used to be, I'm an energizer. That's what I've always been, right? I've always been an energizer. And so it was interesting to see how that showed up when we then all became these flat experiences on the screen is how can you still bring it? And people would over and over again comment about how happy they were that I was in the room with them, and what a great meeting it was, and all the energy that was pulsating through it. And it's really about, to me, John, it's about being present, like really, truly, am I here with this person in this group of people? And can I just be with you? So really my mindfulness training
Yes.
from years and years ago really enabled me to do what I do in the screens.
Well, so I love that. Everything's like that, right? Everything prepared us for, what was coming next. And that's what, like, this whole digital thing for me, we've been trying to do this for 35 years, and people just wouldn't go. They're like, oh, no, here's a bunch of money. You got to fly to Orlando, which is where we were probably the last time. We were in Florida, maybe the last time.
We were in Miami.
Oh, that's right. We were in Miami. Okay, so I would love to see a little bit on this clarity on a cocktail napkin, because I want to share again. Teresa and I haven't talked about this, but one, this is Teresa's website, right? And this is, by the way, that's the link you're going to get to. You're one step closer to crystal clarity. You can watch her video, and if you just enter this, what do you get? Like, I think a 10.
You're going to get complimentary access to my 10-part video course, The Crystallization Process: Clarify, Amplify, and Monetize Your Brand and Business. Because when people hear about what I do and creating visual models of people's thought leadership or their expertise, they want to know how to do it themselves. Yeah. And so this course is really my 10 5-minute videos of what I do when I crystallize somebody's brilliance. So it's really there to help your listeners and viewers be able to start asking themselves questions about, how could I do my clarity on a cocktail napkin? Because once you have that picture, then everything you do to amplify and monetize is going to lead to that. And then you're no longer confused. A confused mind doesn't buy. So if you're confused about your own business, you're confused about your own value proposition and your own differentiating factors, how in the heck do you think the market is going to be able to see you different than the 10 billion other coaches and speakers and authors that there are out there? Right? So this is to help people be able to start to see that themselves. And I have a workshop coming up on the 14th, a DIY workshop that they can go check out at theresarose.com too.
Excellent. Thank you, Teresa. Well, of course, one of our other good friends, NSA, Alan Berg, came to Seattle, and he inspired me to redesign my website. So I haven't officially launched this yet, but I did want to show you this, and I would love to hear, if I was a client, what crystal clarity might you get from this, or what crystal clarity do I need?
Well, I would first say that I don't see any pictures other than you in front of a bunch of screens. So what I would suggest is, how can you break down what is your core value proposition, your core differentiating factor, so that you can have a picture of it, and just start thinking of things like, Simon Sinek. Okay. Simon Sinek is one of the most famous model users that I know of. I wish I knew him. His golden circle of why, how, and what, right? So I would look at yours and say, where's the graphic that shows me what you do? Right? Start there, and then you can polish it up, and you can utilize your creativity to say, okay, if I could create a graphic about what I do with only labels of words, not sentences, not phrases, not questions, not acronyms, none of that stuff. I'm talking about down and dirty, down to the level of word, right? What could you do to have maybe 3, 4, 5 words maximum with some meaningful drawing that could convey what makes you so amazing, John?
Well, here, since you talked about energy on virtual, well, these are some things here. That was says, I've never attended a virtual conference that had a dedicated MC, and now I never want to attend one without.
Nice. Oh, for sure. Well, MCs in general, I've been an MC for years, and I've never gotten into the digital MC. That's just way too, no way. No, thank you. Because I know it's a whole new skill set, but I do know that being on stage countless times as an MC, it matters when you can be that through line, that guide, that trusted resource that's got the client, right? That's like, it's okay. Nothing's going to blow up. We can keep moving forward on time. Everybody's going to get what they need. That value, that's an incredible value to have a successful event. So I think what you're doing is outstanding. Well,
if you don't mind, let me just show you this last 34 seconds, right? You talked about bringing energy to Hey, an audience. Here's how I transformed an audience in 34 seconds. Okay, we'll be right back.
Ha ha!
The bottom right, maybe swearing will help.
Nice. Nice, John. Nice. I love it. I love it. I used to do that kind of stuff all the time in meetings that I'd host virtually, dance party breaks, the whole bit, like what's your signature move, and then hand dance, like you can hand dance.
Somebody did finger dance. Jan Kek.
Oh, I love to finger. Look at that. Look at
Right.
that. I mean, these are my old belly dance days.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well,
That's the only part of me that still should be belly dancing is my hands. Everything else from here down, no thanks, all done.
you can bring that back to virtual, right? Like virtual, like belly finger dance.
There you go. Why not?
Something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Would it be okay to ask? I don't know if you know me for a while. If you had to describe me in 3 words, I'm just curious what 3 words you would come up with.
I would describe you as innovative. I would describe you as driven. And I would describe you as scrappy. I would describe you as scrappy.
I feel very Scrappy Doo, right? You remember Scrappy Doo?
Yeah. Yeah. I just do. I think you're wonderful. And I think that what you do is you found a way. You found a way. And I'll tell you what, John, I met hundreds and hundreds of people in the 2 years of the pandemic, the year and a half of the pandemic that we were in that situation. And I saw lots of people not make it. And I saw lots of people that couldn't do the P word.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you did it hardcore, and it's impressive. That's the scrappiness that I'm talking about. That's the part you make it work. You figure it out. You get it done. You make it happen. You are a doer.
Thank you, Theresa.
Yeah.
And it was, I went through the experience too. And while a lot of people got government help, I applied, I got nothing, I got no additional help. And so, it is something to be proud about.
It sure is. Absolutely. It is. Be proud of it.
That's what I got to the other side getting. I don't want your help, right?
Right.
I'll take care of it. Okay, so I want to ask, why a napkin? Why a cocktail napkin? I'm sure there's a story behind here somewhere, so I'm trying to figure out.
There is. There's several stories. Well, first of all, when I was getting my business degree, I was impressed by the idea that Southwest Airlines was created on a cocktail napkin, and it's sort of an illustrious story in business school about it. And then I remember one of the first big speeches that I ever did. I was on an AirTran flight that I got upgraded to business class, and I needed to figure out what I was going to do for this speech. And I turned over the cocktail napkin and I started writing it. And it literally, it was my career. It was the start of my career, and it was on a cocktail napkin. So I knew the power of what you could do if you get your mind. I mean, if you really think about it, what happens when you do cocktail napkin clarity is you take all the stuff that's in your mind, that's all so much noise, so much word salad, thought spaghetti, half-baked ideas, all the things that swirl and whirl around you. And if you have the discipline to say, I'm going to get cocktail napkin clarity, then you're going to chip away all the stuff that doesn't really matter. And so I'm very passionate about this. In fact, this is my handout. Draw your brilliance. Clarify, amplify. Sorry for the lipstick on there. Clarify, amplify, monetize. Because when you can draw it, you can sell it. And so as this being my handout, first of all, it's, compostable. And second of all, it's this. You can do this. You can put it in a purse and in a backpack and in the back of somebody's pants. And it's right there. And you would, no matter what I love about this technology, because that's what I perceive this to be.
Yeah.
is technology.
Yeah.
Is when I look at this technology, first of all, it is tactile. So it isn't, nothing needs to have a plug. Nothing needs to find Wi-Fi. Nothing needs to be working, because you will always be able to find a cocktail napkin and a pen somewhere. I defy you, unless you're in space, and you still probably could find one if you needed to. You might have to, reach to grab it from the, the gravity, but you can still find this. And when you have technology like a pen and a cocktail napkin, you can sell your brilliance anywhere, anytime, to anyone.
Hmm. Hmm. So, and are you saying that you wrote your first plan after being inspired by Southwest on a cocktail napkin and then just kept going with it? Is that
That's pretty much it. Well, actually, I mean, I created my first keynote off of that. Now, when I created my first thought leadership model around it was after I saw Neen at NSA, because then I was wanting to write the next book that I was going to write was going to be the book that I could differentiate myself. I was in the wellness space. I was in the mindfulness and mind body space and stress management space. And what I realized is I was competing constantly against people. And because I couldn't differentiate myself, I was being kind of put in the same bucket as everybody else for natural, because if you can't be distinctive, then how are you different? And then the other thing about that was I wasn't distinctive enough. And then I also wasn't commanding the fee that I wanted, because I wasn't being able to show that I'm different than everybody else, because I am different than everybody else. So is everybody else. Right. And so me creating my model of my own brilliance as it relates to mindful performance, which is my last book that I wrote, I created that model for myself. Once I created that model for myself, which, by the way, this book is like 5 years old, and I'm still monetizing off of it, still being able to host virtual book clubs, still be able to do long series, of course, multiple breakout sessions, because I did the heavy lifting of thinking about what is my expertise that's different than everybody else's. And I could draw it on the cocktail napkin. Once you have the picture, then you can sell it so easily, because people actually see what you're talking about, literally see what you're talking about. And once I did that for myself, I had other speaker friends, other thought leader friends, other artists and healers and executives who said, "Do you think you could do that for me?" And the first one, I was like, "I don't know, but I'll try." And I just got into it and realized, wow, I have an ability to see the brilliance of other people that they cannot. And that is fundamentally what all of us go through. In my experiences, I have met incredibly talented people, huge gifts and talents, educated, experienced. They're so amazing, and they cannot, for the life of them, see their brilliance in a way that could draw it on a cocktail napkin. They simply are too close. They are inside the bottle. I just had a client yesterday say to me, when I look at myself, and he's incredibly successful and does this for other people. He says, when I look at my future and I look at my brilliance, all I see is a black box. Like, I don't see it. I can't see it. And I said, I want you to imagine that I'm looking at you. I don't see a black box. I see plexiglass. I literally see right through, because I'm the observer. I'm the strategic, objective observer of your brilliance. And I am in the mode of strategically co-creating for you. So I'm going to see your brilliance that you can't.
I gotta love it. We actually have Olivia's watching us online too. She says she's studying about intellectual property right now. Did you happen to copyright or trademark your methods?
No, I haven't. And that's a great question. I'll be completely frank with you. First is I am not much interested in getting in all that and making it all be this fancy pants, trademark program. And the other thing that I really rely on, Olivia, is people will know what my process is. I tell them what my process is. You can go to theresarose.com/clear and get my process. The reality is, clarify, amplify, monetize sounds really, really easy, and it's really not. And so you could take my process all day long. So could a lot of other people take my process, but could they do it? I have less confidence that they have the background and the ability and the intuitive capabilities and the communication abilities that I do. So I'm not into, protecting it at all costs that somebody might steal it, because it's just really connecting, right? Connecting and seeing people.
I think a lot of things are like that. Like I did copyright. I think that we're geoteaming, and I do have two U.S. patents. But in the end, you need a lot of money and lawyers really to enforce a lot of it. So
Yeah.
as a beginning entrepreneur, I think you can worry more about are people actually buying it? I mean, that's like the number one thing.
Right, right.
So you do
And
get to,
the other thing is that I have clients that are wildly successful with my IP, with the ideas
yeah,
that I come up with them. And I'm able to monetize off of that through shining their lights and showing the world what they've done to create global movements and to transform organizations and all the things that I've done. So yes, I don't really have it all locked up, buttoned up. Here's my IP and here's how we're going to regulate it and make sure I get royalties and all that. And I'm getting it downstream because of simply being able to say that I was the crystallizer and co-creator of it.
yeah, perfect. All right, let's see. I'm just curious, what's your most engaging virtual meeting in the past 3 years, whether you were leading it or you were attending it?
Oh boy. Well, that's a hard one to say, but I will say that the ones that are the most engaging are my masterminds of two, which are the actual crystallizations that I do for people. So I show up and deliver crystallized brands in two ways: in person here in California, which is of course ideal because then we have amazing dinner and we, have the same room with the dry erase board and it's fun and you get that personal face-to-face energy that is, irreplaceable, frankly. You can do that. But then there's also people that I crystallize that simply can't come to visit, right? They have a situation and they need to be having it over Zoom.
Yep.
So I would say that my most impactful virtual meetings are those meetings where I have clients who are at their wits' end and they're lost and they sort of kind of are hoping that what I'm going to deliver to them is going to give them that crystal clarity, but they're nervous and worried. And then I get to do my favorite part of the process, which is I do the reveal. I do the model reveal that I've already done for them. And so we get together and I'm 95% done with what they're doing because I did it back end. I did it by myself, right? And when I reveal themselves to them, when I tell them the story of themselves and in such a articulate, intuitive, elegant way, they men and women, young and old, curmudgeony or warm and fluffy, have emotion that come, and it's because they're not used to being seen and understood and
Yeah.
honored. And
Yeah.
so to
Right.
me, when you can be in a screen, and to be able to show someone themselves in a way they've never, ever, ever seen before, that is magic. That is what I call strategically sacred work.
Hmm. I love that part too, because quite often, again, beginning and early entrepreneurs too, think you need more words. And in the end, you actually need less. And it's harder to create less. It's like
Oh,
talks are harder to give than keynotes.
yeah, well, it's what I like to do as my mantra is more less words, more insight. There's a famous quote that I have to remember the name of, and I don't really remember it right now, but it was from a French philosopher that said, "Excuse the length of this letter. I didn't have time to write a shorter one." Which I think is so, because we can never run out of words to say. But and someone said once to me, well, this last model that you delivered for somebody, it only had 4 words. I said, I know it only had 4 words, but it had the right 4 words. Just do it's only 3 words. So it's about getting the economy of words and what is the essence, what's the crystallized essence of a brand or business. And when you know those few short words, then that's what you can build an entire empire off of.
This is the other part about what I call now the dream that I had years ago about digitally assisted living come around, because what we're able to do is you can take your phrase like this, and it turns out that Blaise Pascal is responsible for this phrase. It was also used
Pascal.
in Cyberpunk and Neuromancer, as well as Mark Twain used it at some point. So now you know that it's
Nice.
Pascal, and Pascal was also a computer language was named after Pascal.
Yes, 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 Pascal. Okay,
Right.
that'll help me remember, John. That'll help me remember. I remember I'm so old that I was in a class in college. My very first year, one of the best classes I ever took in college was Intro to Microprocessors.
Ooh, yeah.
Intro to
Good college too. Wait,
Microprocessors.
which
What?
college? Which college?
I went, well, this class was at University of Southern California. I didn't graduate from University of Southern California, but I went for the first year. I followed a boy, erroneously. And that was the class that I took. And it was a game changer because it got me connected to computers, and I built upon the keyboarding class that I took, typing class that I took in high school. And
Yep.
me being able to write quickly and be familiar with a computer
Yeah.
really was it was a seminal part of my success, was
Yeah.
taking that class.
That's a
So
skill
Pascal, I will remember that. I'll remember that.
That's a skill I use every day. All right. Well, Theresa, you are intuitive and you are probably planning for many people into the future, right? What do you see in the future of virtual, or what wishes do you have, that things that you wish you could do on virtual?
Mm. Oh boy, that's a great question. Well, what I hope would be in the future is some way to continue to promote the emotional responses that people will have. Like, I love, my favorite part of Zoom is the reactions. I love reactions because I just feel like, I was just in a call the other day and somebody did one of these old big old red hearts that after somebody said something. And I think it made all the difference. It really did. It was like a little blast of mojo that just says, I love this. And so the more that we could have that kind of technology that would help really tap into the heart and how we're showing up, I think would be an amazing innovation in virtual meetings.
Yes, I know they're trying to do some other things like recognize when your hand is up to put the raised hand up, although that's not a feature that I want. But I did do this, which is I always felt they were too small, right? So, I actually created videos of each one of them and made them bigger. So now I have the ability to put them inside of any frame. I can
Oh,
actually be on another not Zoom platform and be able to do reactions like this too.
oh, wow, cool. Well, I'm one of these people. Like, we
Oh yeah,
learned this, shaking, doing
wow,
the shaking.
that's
Yeah,
right, right. And
spirit fingers.
so that'd be great. Other ways to transmit emotions, I think, is really one of the pieces. And I also foresee, with all the technology that we have, because now everyone's on virtual, there's some things that you can do that you couldn't do, that or are really expensive to do. Now that you have a camera, you can actually do things like analyze, you know, how engaged are people with you? Are they, you might be able to get something that could read a whole screen of people and say, in general, the sentiment is X or Y.
Yeah,
You as a facilitator, you could get a read on that and then decide, do I want to take a different action, or is that what I want? Or I wanted to, and I intended to create that in that moment,
yeah.
and give us tools so that we have better ways to present and facilitate, I think, with groups. I think that's what I'm looking forward to. I think it's all possible now. Now the question is, who's going to make some of this stuff first? So
Right, right. Yeah. And value it organizationally to be able to say we're going to utilize it in our ecosystem.
in our
Right.
everyday, and again, for us as humans, to trust it and find it to be valuable somehow, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
People.
Well, I certainly will always find, if you're going to give me more opportunities to connect with people emotionally, bring it on, because that's part of what makes people do what they do. They say yes for emotions. They don't say yes for logic. They say yes for emotions. Now they understand and they give themselves permission to feel through logic, but they say yes because they feel it. And so the more that we can tap into that understanding of what they are, who they are. I mean, it's hard, it's a mind game when you see just a bunch of names, right? You got to really pretend and in your mind that you're opening, hearts and minds, and they're getting what they need, and that it's fundamentally, a meaningful experience, even if you're only seeing names.
Well, you'll love this. For those who don't know, you can turn on the ability to chat reactions that are anything in the emoji sphere. So like this, And Theresa, a side fact, like I'm not a fan of Zoom webinars, but I did recently have to go on it. What happens in Zoom webinars, if you have a large group and they all start hitting reactions, they all start flooding on screen with you.
Ooh,
And I had
nice.
300 people online. And so you could really tell, like, you could get everyone to go at the same time. You could basically build a river of like emotion. I thought that was really cool to
Ooh.
communicate to everyone that we were actually like in that moment, we were all synced up. So,
I love that. Yum, yum, yum. River of emotion. Sell that stuff, John.
all right. Speaking of that, Theresa, if people could, if you wanted people to remember only one thing from this interview, I would really love to know what's the one thing you want them to remember, especially Olivia.
Well,
It'd be a really,
well,
really.
I'll tell you, the one thing I really want them to remember is how to find me. And so how I want them to remember me is there's a rose.com. Imagine the most beautiful rose. There's a rose.com will get you to where you need to be.
Which is the same as teresarose.com.
Oh, yes, it happens to be the same thing. I have the most accidentally awesome URL on the planet, I think.
And Olivia says, Theresa, that was a wonderful answer. I look forward to the course and the PDF and the workshop. Thank you so much. So
Awesome. Thanks, Olivia.
thanks again. It's so great to reconnect with you and hear all the great things going on with you. I look forward to bumping into you into the digital universe.
That sounds great, John. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Theresa. All right, this is John Chen. It's been another Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast with the one and only There's a Rose.com, Theresa Rose. So showing us some clarity and that if you can't describe your company on a cocktail napkin, you should try again. So I'll leave you with that. By the way, click subscribe. This is now available on engagingvirtualmeetings.online. Episodes coming out every Wednesday. We already have episodes loaded up for the next 2 years. And if you want to be the next guest on here, make sure and click the button, engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet. Click interview, and you too can be like there'sarose.com. You'd be the next guest here on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. All right, we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Oh, button's in the wrong place. Next time.
It's always smart people and